Hello Queens and Kings, my name is Thandeka Shabangu. Welcome to my channel. If it is your first time here, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. Today we're on the final part for our Umtsha. So we're doing two things today. Number one is to finish our pipe at the end, and the second thing that we'll be doing is to join our pipes together. So this tutorial will be simple, straight to the point, and short. So, the materials that we'll be needing. Remember the wool that you're using at part one? Bring it back because we're going to use it again today. You're going to need your pipe that you've been busy with, and you're going to need your beads, your zest beads, your 8-knot size zest beads. You're also going to need your upholstery thread and your needle. So let's get started. So at this point where you've been doing your pipe, you're going to leave about 2 centimeters of space because you have to start adding your wool at this point. So you take your wool, this is your wool, you put it in half like this, and at the tail you're going to tie a knot. You're going to tie a good knot at the tail, and there we go. So now you're going to take your pipe. Remember that while we're doing this, we folded it a lot of times. So what you're going to do now, you're going to look for the center of there is the center, and then you are going to push your wool in, but you take notes in terms of where you pushed your wool in. Okay, so now you are going to take your needle and then when you poke, you're going to poke it on the inside, but when you poke, make sure that you're going to poke your needle through your pipe, but when you poke, make sure that your needle also pokes through the wool you just added, because we want to secure the wool. I want to make sure that the wool is nicely secured. Okay, let me push it in. If I feel it on my fingers, oh, there it is. Take it out here. Okay, what happened here? Let me have a look, see. Okay, so it's secured, it's nice and secured. I had to make sure that it's secured, and then you insert your needle into the last 3 beads that you were the last 3 beads from the wrapping stitch, yeah? And then what you're going to do now is to continue to wrap until you leave about half a centimeter of your beads. So we're going to continue doing the beading, and then at this point where this lining shows, that is where we're going to stop with the wrapping. So what I'm going to do now is pick up my white beads on my needle, and I'll come back and wrap. So here are my white beads that I've picked up because I want to continue to wrap until we get to that point. So I'm trying to position my pipe nicely. Okay. So we're going to wrap and wrap and wrap. Oopsie. I'm sorry for those queens and kings. The pipe is long, so I'm really having a challenge making sure that it's nicely secure in the frame of the camera, because I'd like you to see everything. So you're going to wrap and wrap and wrap. So when we get to this point, at the end, every time when you finish wrapping your beads, you are going to wrap with your thread. Wrap it the first time, and then you're going to take your needle, insert it into the last 3 beads. And then you make sure you secure it nicely. Okay, you want to secure everything, so what you're going to do, you're just going to poke your needle through just to tighten up everything. Oh, there we go. Tighten up everything. There's no right or wrong place, just around the top of your pipe. Just continue to poke your needle through. Okay, so I feel that it's nice and tight. What I'm going to do is the system that we were using in part 1 when we started our pipe. So I'm going to pick up about 5 beads or 4 beads. Remember, it all depends on the number of beads are going to depend on the space that you're going to be covering. So I'm going to pick up the number of those beads. I think at this point I'm going to pick up 5 beads, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to insert my needle from the center of the pipe and then poke the needle out right next to the beads. So let me pick up those 5 beads. I'm going to pick them up here on camera. Here are my 5 beads. Then I push it to the end. Can also use this time to measure. Okay. So I look for the center. The wool is going to guide me because it's also inside the center. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to poke my needle. Just navigating the needle might be a bit challenging. Here we go. This is where I'm going to poke my needle, and then I pull. This part is a very untidy part, but you try to make it neat as possible as you can. But for me, I find this part very untidy. Pull. Okay, let me pull. You can pull very slow to make sure that everything Then here we are. Then I'm going to pick up another 5 beads to make the second row. Here are my 5 beads. Set your needle to the center and then poke the needle out, and then you pull. As you're pulling your thread, also guide your line of beads where it should be, and remember to pull. I want to pick up another 5 beads. Here's another 5 beads. Take my needle and I insert it from the center, and your needle you poke it outside. As you pull your thread, because you see, if I don't guide my thread, look where the beads will be landing. They'll be all over the place. So you can use your fingers to make sure that they are in place where you intend them to be. Here it is. Then, so this is what you're going to do all the way round until you finish and it's covered up nicely. So this is how it turned out. Please try to make it neat as you possibly can. Don't be like me. Don't be like me. Your wool is secure and everything is covered. So now the lesson that we're going to move on to is joining your pipes. So here are my pipes. For joining the pipes, there are 3 C's that I would like you to take into consideration. The first C is color, the second C is check, and the third C is combine. Now, normally you would start by, it will be very natural for you to start stitching your pipes at the end. But for this, the tip that I would advise is for you to start where your colors are. This is because it's very hard. It might happen that while you are stitching here, something might shift and then your colors will be sort of like inverted. So that's the first C, color. So you start where you have your colors. That's where you're going to start stitching. It probably at the center or at the sides, but if you also have your colors at the center of your pipe, that's where I would advise for you to start, and then you move on to your sides. The edges would be the last part that you would stitch your pipes together. The second C that I would like you to consider is check. Now, what do I mean by check? First thing that you're going to do when you stitch, you're going to stitch behind your belt. There's a part that is going to be your front, and then there's going to be a part where there'll be a part where it's going to be your back. So you're going to stitch from behind. So while you're stitching, you always have to make sure that you go back in the front and check if everything is in place. For example, this part is supposed to be at the back because that's the where the lines are not combining well. So as you can, let me make sure that everything is fine. Yes, so this part will be our front because you don't have double black lines and everything is in place. Now look behind. That's where we have our double black lines. So that is the part where we're going to stitch. And then the third part, the third C is combine. So once you are at your color, and once you have checked, by check I mean you make sure that the front part is well, everything is in place properly, And then the third part will be to combine your pipes and stitch them on. So now let me start by checking if everything is in place. Okay, so this will be my front. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip over and start stitching. So the first thing that you're going to take is your needle and your thread, and then you're going to tie about 3 knots because you want to make sure that it's secure. You tie 3 knots or you tie 2 knots, but not 1 knot, ne? Because with 1 knot, it will easily slip, and that's not what we want. So I tie 3 knots. Okay. So this is my pattern. My pattern is a step by step. I don't know how to explain it. Okay. So this is the front part. So check, make sure that the black lines meet properly, because those are the guiding part. Okay. The yellow is giving me a hard time. And then I go behind. Okay. What I'm going to do is poke my thread. I'm going to start from the black lines. The other parts, I will continue with them later. But for me, the black parts are important. So I would advise for you to put your pipes flat down, not side by side, but flat. When you put it flat, it will be much easier for you. So I make sure that the lines, oh, I was blocking the light. Sorry about that. Okay, so I start with the black lines, ne? So the lines are quite evident. They are, how can I explain it? They're along the same plane. Yeah. But it's like they are continuous when you put them together. You see the greens, they go hand in hand, even at the white part. Okay, this is my first pipe. I poke into 4 beads, and then the second pipe I also poke, insert my needle into the 4 beads, and then I pull my needle. You start with the black lines because those are the important ones, and then you go next door. So you're going to do this with each and every line. Go next door, and you poke there too. Okay, so while you do this, you also go back and check if your lines are the same. Okay. Go. And then you poke 4 beads. You poke 4 or 3 beads. But make sure to tighten every time so that you won't have a lot of those loose white threads. Ne? What happened here? There we go. And then poke this side too. So that's what you're going to do. Just poke in between the lines. By poke, I mean inserting your needle. in between the lines, and then go here, 4 beads, you pull your thread, and another 4 beads. So it can be 4 or 3 beads. It all will be up to you. So every time, let's go in front and see if we are doing the right thing. Okay, so you make it loose to make sure that it's not your hands manipulating the situation. Okay, then you go behind. So you're just going to go, that's the system that you're going to use. So I'm just going to keep doing it because I'm going to have a hard time here at the yellow. I'll have to sort of like make sure, maneuver it a lot, twist it a lot. So I want to do that behind cameras, and then I'll be back while this part will be joined. Okay, queens and kings, so this is the color part. So this is the front. I lost my battle with the yellow, but luckily enough, I also have a third pipe for my design that I'm going to add. Hopefully it won't really show that much, the yellow part. So this is the front, as you can see. This is the front and this is the back. So always make sure that you pull your thread. Don't pull too hard and don't pull too soft. It's just in between. Always make sure that this part you pull properly. And then I also want to show you the other side of my color. So this is my other side of my color that I was busy with, as you can see. So this is the back, and then this is the front. Luckily here I don't have the yellow drama that I had on the other part. So now the next step that you're going to do here, when you're done with all your color parts, because I know some designs of Umtsha have these color parts, maybe they will have 5. So just start with all your colors. Make sure that everything gels well, and then you can go do the center, and then you can do the ends, and make sure that everything is in place and properly. So this is where we're going to stop, queens and kings. If you forget anything that we talked about today, just remember that the 3 C's. Number 1 is color, meaning you go to the point where you have your colors in your pipes. C number 2 is, what was C number 2? C number 2 is check. Yes. No. Yes. C number 2 is check. So when you're at the back, you always look in the front to make sure that everything is right. It's in the right place, and it's not like that yellow that we're not going to talk about. I'm so annoyed. And then C number 3 is combine. So once you have the color and once you've checked that everything is together, then you combine with your thread. Okay, thank you so much for watching, queens and kings. I love you guys so much. Remember to love yourself, respect yourself, honor yourself, and have fun. Hey, have fun. Whatever you do, have fun. Even in the hardest times, have fun. Put that spice of fun. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the next video. Bye.